Welcome to Cosmo Publishing. You just tuned yourself to the coolest place to learn all about self-publishing. We are a turnkey quality service provider, from interior formatting to custom covers and everything in between, including book marketing and advertising. It is the company that books a lot.
Welcome to the Cosmo Publishing Podcast. I'm your host, Gürhan, co-founder of Cosmo Publishing and Cosmodio books. Together, we work closely with independent authors at every stage of their publishing journey, from first-time writers navigating their first release to experienced authors building long-term global catalogs. Our work is grounded in clarity, quality, and sustainability, not hype, shortcuts, or unrealistic promises. At Cosmo Publishing, we support authors with the practical side of publishing, including editing, formatting, cover design, distribution, and marketing strategies that are designed to work over time. Through Cosmodio books, we focus on helping authors turn individual books into lasting assets by expanding reach across platforms and formats. Every day, we see the behind-the-scenes reality of what authors struggle with, what helps them grow, and what quietly leads to burnout if left unaddressed. This podcast exists because writing and publishing are often presented as extremes. You are either told to focus only on your art and ignore the business, or to market relentlessly if you want any chance of success. Very little space is given to balance, pacing, or sustainability. As a result, many authors feel like they are constantly falling short, either creatively or commercially. Burnout does not usually come from a lack of passion. It comes from carrying too much pressure for too long without a structure that supports it. Authors are asked to write deeply personal work, promote it publicly, track performance, and repeat the process, often without clear boundaries or realistic expectations. Over time, this constant switching between creative focus and outward visibility creates exhaustion. One of the most common patterns we see is authors blaming themselves for burnout. They assume they are not disciplined enough, not productive enough, or not motivated enough. In reality, burnout is often a systems problem, not a personal one. When writing and marketing compete for the same mental space, something eventually gives. Today's episode is about understanding that tension and learning how to work with it rather than against it. Balancing writing and marketing is not about doing everything equally or perfectly. It is about recognizing that these two activities require different kinds of energy and designing your process accordingly. In this conversation, we are not going to push hustle or avoidance. We are going to talk about rhythm, boundaries, and realistic expectations. We'll explore why burnout is so common among authors, how it quietly develops, and what practical changes can help you stay creative while still being visible. Whether you are early in your publishing journey or already feeling stretched thin, this episode is meant to help you slow down enough to build a process you can actually sustain. From here, we'll begin by looking at why author burnout happens so frequently and why it is not a personal failure. First, let's talk about why authors burn out and why it's not a personal failure. Author burnout is often misunderstood as a lack of discipline, motivation, or resilience. Many writers assume that if they were more organized, more inspired, or more committed, burnout would not happen. This belief is not only inaccurate, it is damaging. Burnout is rarely a personal failure. It is usually the result of misaligned expectations, unmanaged pressure, and systems that ask too much from one person for too long. One of the primary reasons authors burn out is role overload. Modern authors are expected to be writers, editors, marketers, brand builders, content creators, analysts, and customer service representatives all at once. Each role demands a different type of focus and energy. When these demands stack without structure, exhaustion becomes inevitable. Another major contributor is emotional exposure. Writing is an inward, vulnerable act. Marketing is outward and performative. Switching repeatedly between these two modes drains energy faster than either activity alone. Authors are often expected to write deeply personal work and then immediately promote it publicly. Over time, this constant emotional toggling erodes creative reserves. Unclear success metrics also fuel burnout. Many authors do not know what progress should realistically look like. They compare themselves to others with different genres, audiences, or resources. When results do not match expectations, self-doubt grows. Burnout thrives in environments where effort feels invisible or insufficient. Perfectionism plays a role as well. Authors often hold themselves to standards they would never impose on others. They delay rest, overwork revisions, and interpret normal setbacks as proof of inadequacy. Perfectionism disguises itself as dedication, but it often leads directly to exhaustion. Another overlooked factor is isolation. Writing is solitary by nature, and many authors work without support or feedback. Without perspective, small problems feel overwhelming. Without reassurance, uncertainty becomes stress. Burnout accelerates when authors feel alone with their doubts. Burnout is also closely tied to time pressure. Many authors are balancing writing and marketing alongside jobs, family responsibilities, and financial stress. When creative work is squeezed into already full lives, recovery time disappears, chronic fatigue builds quietly. Importantly, burnout does not always look dramatic. It often appears as numbness, procrastination, irritability, or loss of joy. Authors may continue producing while feeling disconnected from their work. Because productivity may continue, burnout is frequently ignored until it becomes severe. It is crucial to understand that burnout is not a sign that you are doing something wrong creatively. It is a sign that the structure around your creativity needs adjustment. When systems demand constant output without recovery, burnout is a predictable outcome. Another misconception is that passion alone should be enough. Passion helps authors start, but it does not protect them indefinitely. Sustainable creativity requires boundaries, pacing, and realistic expectations. Passion without structure burns out faster. Recognizing burnout as a systemic issue allows authors to respond with compassion rather than criticism. Instead of asking what is wrong with me, the question becomes what needs to change in how I'm working. This shift opens the door to practical solutions. Burnout is not proof that you're not meant to write or publish. It is often proof that you care deeply and have been carrying too much alone. When authors stop personalizing burnout and start redesigning their processes, recovery becomes possible. In the next section, we'll explore the difference between writing energy and marketing energy, and why treating them as the same thing creates exhaustion even for motivated, talented authors. Why don't we split our energy into two parts to be more effective? And let's call these parts writing energy versus marketing energy. One of the most important distinctions authors can make, yet one that is rarely discussed, is the difference between writing energy and marketing energy. Treating these two types of work as interchangeable is one of the fastest ways to drain creativity and accelerate burnout. Understanding how they differ is the foundation of building a sustainable publishing rhythm. Writing energy is inward focused. It requires concentration, emotional presence, imagination, and a sense of psychological safety. When you write, you are often alone with your thoughts, characters, or ideas. Your attention moves inward. Time may feel fluid. Writing draws from deep cognitive and emotional reserves, even when it feels enjoyable. Marketing energy works in the opposite direction. It is outward focused. It requires visibility, repetition, communication, and tolerance for uncertainty. Marketing asks you to present your work publicly, talk about it clearly, and accept delayed or ambiguous feedback. Instead of immersion, marketing demands responsiveness and emotional resilience. Both types of energy are valid. Both are necessary for modern authors. The problem arises when they are treated as the same resource. Many authors attempt to write and market in the same mental state or even the same time block. They draft a chapter, then immediately post about it, check metrics, respond to comments, or review performance. This constant switching creates cognitive friction. The mind never fully settles into either mode. Over time, this friction becomes exhausting. Writing begins to feel shallow. Marketing begins to feel overwhelming. Neither activity receives the quality of attention it deserves. Authors often respond by pushing harder instead of restructuring, which worsens burnout. Another issue is emotional vulnerability. Writing exposes internal worlds. Marketing exposes that vulnerability to public response or silence. When authors market immediately after writing, they often carry creative sensitivity into a space that requires thicker emotional boundaries. This mismatch increases stress. Many authors also underestimate how long it takes to replenish writing energy. Writing energy is not restored simply by stopping. It requires rest, mental space, and emotional recovery. When marketing fills every gap, replenishment never happens. Marketing energy, on the other hand, is replenished differently. It benefits from clarity, routine, and detachment. Marketing becomes easier when it is procedural rather than personal. Authors who approach marketing as a system rather than an expression of self-experience, less emotional fatigue. Another common mistake is assuming low energy means lack of discipline. In reality, it often means the wrong type of energy is being demanded at the wrong time. Writing after heavy marketing can feel impossible. Marketing after deep writing can feel draining. This is not a flaw, it is a signal. Successful authors learn to separate these energies deliberately. They assign different times, days, or even mental environments to each activity. Writing may happen in quiet, protected blocks. Marketing may happen in shorter, contained sessions with clear boundaries. This separation reduces internal conflict. When you sit down to write, you are not carrying the weight of visibility. When you market, you are not carrying the fragility of creation. Each activity receives the mindset it needs. It is also important to recognize that writing energy fluctuates. Some days are creative, others are administrative. Forcing writing during low energy periods often leads to frustration. Successful authors respect their creative cycles and plan accordingly. Marketing energy can be more consistent when structured properly. Systems, automation, and repetition reduce the need for constant emotional engagement. This allows marketing to coexist with writing rather than compete with it. Another layer of tension comes from expectations. Many authors believe they should be able to do both equally well at all times. This belief creates guilt when one area lags. In reality, balance is not about simultaneity, it is about rhythm. Rhythm allows authors to alternate focus without self-judgment. Some weeks prioritize writing, others emphasize marketing. Over time, both receive attention without exhausting the author. Understanding the difference between writing energy and marketing energy also helps authors communicate better with collaborators, family, and themselves. Instead of saying, I'm unmotivated, authors can say, I'm in a writing phase or I'm in a marketing phase. Language shapes self-perception. Burnout often occurs not because authors are doing too much, but because they are doing too many different kinds of things without recovery. Separating energy types restores coherence. When authors respect the difference between writing and marketing energy, both improve. Writing becomes deeper, marketing becomes calmer. The internal tension eases. In the next section, we'll examine the myth of always-on visibility and why constant presence is neither required nor sustainable for long-term success. In this section, let's solve the myth of always-on visibility, shall we? One of the most damaging beliefs contributing to author burnout is the myth of always-on visibility. This idea suggests that if you are not constantly posting, promoting, engaging, and reminding people that you exist, you are falling behind. For many authors, this belief becomes a quiet but relentless source of pressure that drains both creative energy and confidence. The myth is fueled by social platforms, marketing advice, and selective success stories. Authors see others posting daily, launching repeatedly, or appearing everywhere at once. What is rarely shown is how much of that visibility is scheduled, automated, delegated, or simply recycled. Constant visibility is often an illusion. Visibility does not work the way many authors think it does. Readers do not decide to read a book because they saw it once. They decide after repeated low-pressure exposure. Familiarity builds over time. This means that being present occasionally and consistently is far more effective than being everywhere briefly and then disappearing from exhaustion. Always-on visibility assumes that attention is earned through volume. In reality, attention is earned through clarity and repetition. Authors who scale sustainably focus on being recognizable rather than omnipresent. They allow readers to encounter the same message, tone, and identity multiple times without constant novelty. Another flaw in the always-on mindset is the assumption that visibility must be active. Authors often believe they must be personally present for marketing to work. In practice, much of effective visibility is passive. Book descriptions, series pages, email sequences, ads, and evergreen content continue working without daily effort. Visibility does not stop when the author logs off. The pressure to be always on also ignores energy limits. Creativity and communication draw from the same mental reserves. When authors spend all their energy maintaining visibility, there is little left for writing. Over time, this imbalance leads to shallow work or complete creative shutdown. Another consequence of constant visibility is emotional fatigue. Posting frequently means being exposed frequently. Engagement may be inconsistent. Silence may feel personal. Criticism, even minor, can sting. When authors do not have space to recover, these micro-stresses accumulate. The always-on myth also distorts time perception. Authors begin to feel that any moment not spent promoting is wasted. Rest feels irresponsible. Silence feels risky. This mindset makes recovery difficult and turns publishing into a source of chronic anxiety. Successful authors who avoid burnout almost always reject this myth. They understand that visibility works in waves. There are periods of promotion and periods of quiet. Both are necessary. Quiet periods allow for writing, reflection, and renewal. Visibility periods allow for connection and growth. Another important realization is that visibility does not equal impact. Posting more does not always mean reaching more readers. In fact, excessive posting can dilute messaging and reduce engagement. Consistent focused visibility tends to perform better than constant noise. Authors who scale sustainably often choose specific visibility windows. They decide when they will engage and when they will not. This containment protects mental health and improves quality. When authors show up intentionally rather than compulsively, visibility becomes more effective. Automation also plays a critical role in dismantling the always-on myth. Scheduled content, pre-written newsletters, and evergreen promotions allow authors to maintain presence without constant effort. This separation between visibility and availability is essential. Another overlooked aspect is audience tolerance. Readers do not expect constant updates. In fact, many prefer restraint. They want clear communication, not overwhelm. Authors who respect reader attention build trust. It is also important to acknowledge that some platforms reward constant activity, but not all authors need to be on those platforms. Sustainable visibility aligns with the author's temperament, genre, and goals. There is no universal requirement. Letting go of the always-on myth requires permission. Permission to step back, permission to be quiet, permission to trust systems rather than constant output. This permission is not laziness. It is strategic restraint. Visibility that supports a long-term career is rhythmic, not relentless. It expands and contracts. It supports creativity rather than consuming it. When authors stop measuring commitment by constant presence, burnout begins to loosen its grip. Writing regains depth. Marketing regains calm. Publishing becomes something that fits into life rather than overwhelms it. In the next section, we'll focus on how to create sustainable writing rhythms that protect creative energy while still allowing steady progress. Let's get back to writing and talk about creating sustainable writing rhythms. One of the most effective ways authors prevent burnout is by creating sustainable writing rhythms instead of relying on bursts of motivation or rigid daily expectations. Writing rhythms are not about writing more. They are about writing in a way that fits your energy, your life, and your long-term goals. Many authors begin their careers believing that consistency means writing every day. While daily writing works well for some, it is not the only path to productivity. When daily writing is treated as a moral requirement rather than a strategic choice, it often becomes a source of guilt and exhaustion. Sustainable writing rhythms begin with understanding your natural energy patterns. Some authors write best in the morning, others late at night. Some thrive with long sessions, others with short focused blocks. There is no universal schedule. The mistake is forcing yourself into a rhythm that does not match how your mind works. Another important factor is seasonality. Writing energy fluctuates across weeks, months, and even years. Life events, emotional load, and external responsibilities all affect creative capacity. Sustainable authors accept these fluctuations instead of fighting them. They plan for high output periods and low output periods rather than expecting the same performance year-round. Rhythm also means separating writing from outcome pressure. When authors write only with the goal of finishing quickly or meeting external benchmarks, writing becomes tense. Sustainable rhythms prioritize process over speed. Progress is measured in engagement rather than volume. Many successful authors structure writing into phases. There may be drafting phases where creativity is prioritized and editing is postponed. There may be revision phases where precision replaces exploration. Separating these modes reduces cognitive strain. Trying to draft and edit simultaneously often slows both. Another key element of sustainable rhythm is protecting writing time. This does not necessarily mean long hours, it means intentional boundaries. Writing time is treated as non-negotiable within its container, but flexible outside of it. When writing time is respected, authors stop negotiating with themselves constantly. Short, consistent sessions often outperform long, irregular ones. Even 30 focused minutes can produce meaningful progress if distractions are minimized. Sustainable authors value depth of attention more than duration. Recovery is also part of rhythm. Writing draws from emotional and cognitive reserves. Without recovery, output declines. Rest is not a reward for productivity. It is a requirement for it. Sustainable rhythms include breaks, transitions, and moments of mental quiet. Another overlooked aspect is emotional pacing. Writing difficult scenes or complex material can be draining. Authors who ignore this may push through at the cost of later exhaustion. Sustainable rhythms allow space after emotionally intense writing to decompress before moving on. Writing rhythms should also adapt as careers evolve. Early-stage authors may write sporadically. Later-stage authors often write more strategically. Output increases not because of pressure, but because systems support it. Sustainable rhythms evolve rather than remain fixed. Technology can support rhythm or disrupt it. Notifications, metrics, and constant connectivity fragment attention. Many authors benefit from writing environments that are intentionally disconnected. Even temporary separation from external input can dramatically improve focus. Another important factor is redefining productivity. Writing one strong page may be more valuable than writing 10 unfocused ones. Sustainable authors learn to trust quality over quantity. This trust reduces anxiety and increases satisfaction. Accountability can support rhythm when used gently. Writing groups, deadlines, or check-ins can provide structure. However, accountability should encourage rather than punish. Harsh systems often backfire. It is also important to acknowledge that sustainable rhythms look different at different life stages. Parents, caregivers, and full-time workers will have different capacities than full-time writers. Sustainable rhythms respect reality instead of resisting it. Writing rhythms also interact with marketing rhythms. Authors who try to write heavily while marketing intensely often struggle. Alternating focus across seasons or weeks reduces overload. Rhythm replaces balance. The most important shift is letting go of comparison. Seeing other authors write faster or more frequently can trigger self-criticism. Sustainable authors focus inward. They build rhythms they can maintain, not rhythms that look impressive. Over time, sustainable rhythms build trust with yourself. Writing becomes less dramatic and more dependable. Progress accumulates quietly. Confidence grows naturally. Burnout thrives on inconsistency and pressure. Sustainability thrives on rhythm and respect for limits. When authors create writing rhythms that honor both creativity and capacity, writing stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like a practice they can return to again and again. In the next section, we'll explore how to approach marketing in ways that support writing instead of competing with it, and how to stay visible without draining creative focus. It is understandable that authors would rather focus on their writing than marketing. So, in this section, we are going to talk about marketing without draining creative focus. One of the main reasons authors burn out is not that they market their work, but how they market it. When marketing is allowed to intrude constantly into creative space, it competes directly with writing rather than supporting it. Sustainable authors learn to design marketing in a way that protects creative focus instead of fragmenting it. The first shift is understanding that marketing does not need to feel personal to be effective. Many authors approach marketing as an extension of themselves. Every post feels like a performance. Every response feels like a judgment. This emotional attachment makes marketing exhausting. Authors who scale sustainably learn to treat marketing as communication about the work, not as an evaluation of the self. Marketing also becomes draining when it lacks boundaries. When authors check metrics throughout the day, respond impulsively, or feel compelled to engage constantly, marketing bleeds into every mental space. Creative focus requires containment. Marketing must have a beginning and an end. One of the most effective ways to protect writing energy is time separation. Sustainable authors schedule marketing in specific blocks rather than letting it spread throughout the day. Marketing might happen once or twice a week or during a defined daily window. Outside that window, writing is protected from external input. Another critical adjustment is simplifying channels. Many authors attempt to market everywhere at once. This creates constant pressure to keep up and dilutes effort. Authors who avoid burnout choose fewer platforms and go deeper. They focus on where their readers actually are, not where advice tells them they should be. Marketing also drains creativity when it requires constant invention. Sustainable marketing relies on repetition rather than novelty. Authors reuse messages, themes, and language. They allow their work to be seen multiple times instead of constantly reinventing how to talk about it. Repetition builds recognition. Novelty drains energy. Automation is another essential tool. Scheduled content, evergreen promotions, and pre-written sequences allow marketing to continue without daily effort. Automation does not remove authenticity. It removes urgency. This distinction matters deeply for creative sustainability. Another source of creative drain is the belief that marketing must feel exciting or inspiring to work. In reality, the most effective marketing often feels neutral or even boring. It is consistent, clear, and calm. Authors who wait for marketing to feel motivating often delay it. Authors who treat it as a routine maintain it. Marketing becomes easier when authors define its purpose clearly. Instead of trying to sell constantly, sustainable authors focus on being findable, understandable, and trustworthy. This reduces pressure and improves effectiveness. Marketing becomes about clarity rather than persuasion. It is also important to acknowledge that marketing has diminishing returns when overdone. Posting more does not always lead to better results. In some cases, it leads to audience fatigue. Authors who respect their own energy often also respect their audience's attention. Protecting creative focus also means resisting constant comparison. Watching others market aggressively can create anxiety and false urgency. Sustainable authors remind themselves that visibility looks different for everyone. Marketing strategies should align with personality and capacity, not with trends. Another important element is emotional detachment from results. Marketing outcomes fluctuate, engagement varies. Silence is common. When authors interpret every response as feedback on their worth or talent, marketing becomes emotionally dangerous. Sustainable authors treat results as information, not judgment. Marketing should also support momentum rather than interrupt it. Authors who pause writing repeatedly to market often struggle to regain depth. Many successful authors alternate seasons. Some periods prioritize writing, others emphasize marketing. This rhythm reduces friction. Another helpful practice is preparing marketing during low creative energy periods. When writing feels difficult, marketing tasks can be completed without guilt. When writing energy is high, marketing can be minimized. This flexibility protects creativity. Sustainable authors also build buffers. They prepare marketing materials in advance so they are not forced to promote while emotionally exposed. Launches, announcements, and updates are planned when possible. This reduces stress during critical creative periods. It is also important to release the belief that marketing success must be immediate. Marketing often works slowly. Authors who accept delayed results feel less pressure to constantly adjust or intensify effort. Patience protects focus. Ultimately, marketing should serve writing, not replace it. The purpose of visibility is to support the work, not consume the creator. When marketing is designed as a system with boundaries, it becomes a background process rather than a constant demand. Authors who protect creative focus do not avoid marketing. They redesign it. They choose calm over chaos, structure over urgency, and clarity over noise. When marketing stops draining creative energy, writing regains depth and joy. That balance is what allows authors to stay visible and creative at the same time without burning out. In the next section, we'll look at the systems, boundaries, and time protection, and how they create the structural support that makes balance possible long term. In this section, we are going to focus on 3 topics that many people skip. Let's count them all first and talk about them later. Systems, boundaries, and time protection. Burnout rarely happens because authors lack passion. It happens because passion is asked to operate without protection. Systems, boundaries, and time protection are the structures that turn good intentions into sustainable practice. Without them, even the most motivated authors eventually feel overwhelmed. Systems are repeatable processes that remove friction and reduce decision fatigue. For authors, this includes how writing sessions begin, how marketing is scheduled, how projects move from draft to publication, and how communication is handled. When these processes are undefined, every task requires fresh effort. That constant redeciding drains energy. Successful authors simplify their workflows. They use the same tools, the same steps, and the same order of operations whenever possible. This does not limit creativity, it protects it. When logistics are predictable, creative energy is not spent managing chaos. Boundaries are equally important. Boundaries define when you are available and when you are not, both to others and to yourself. Many authors struggle with boundaries because writing and marketing happen from home, on personal devices, and across blurred time zones. Without clear boundaries, work expands to fill every moment. One common boundary failure is constant accessibility. Authors feel pressure to respond immediately to messages, comments, or notifications. This creates a sense of perpetual interruption. Sustainable authors choose specific times to engage and allow silence the rest of the time. This containment reduces anxiety and preserves focus. Time protection is the practical application of boundaries. It means assigning writing and marketing to protected blocks rather than letting them compete throughout the day. Writing time is treated as sacred within its container. Marketing time is treated as finite. Neither spills endlessly into the other. Another aspect of time protection is acknowledging limits. Authors often overestimate how much they can do in a day. Sustainable systems are built around realistic capacity, not aspirational productivity. When schedules respect limits, consistency becomes possible. Systems also make delegation easier. When tasks are clearly defined, support can be added without confusion. Even small forms of delegation, such as editing help or scheduling tools, reduce load. Delegation is not about giving up control. It is about preserving energy for work that only you can do. Boundaries also protect emotional space. Writing creates vulnerability. Marketing exposes that vulnerability. Without boundaries, authors carry emotional residue from one activity into the other. Clear separation allows emotionally reset. Another overlooked boundary is internal. Many authors carry constant mental pressure to be doing more. Systems help quiet this pressure by creating trust. When you know your process works, you stop second-guessing every pause. Time protection also includes rest. Rest is often treated as optional or indulgent. In reality, it is structural. Creativity requires recovery. Sustainable authors schedule rest intentionally rather than waiting until exhaustion forces it. It is also important to protect future time. Overcommitting today creates burnout tomorrow. Authors who scale sustainably say no to opportunities that do not align with their goals or capacity. Saying no is a form of time protection. Systems, boundaries, and time protection work together. Systems reduce friction. Boundaries contain energy. Time protection ensures priority. When these elements are in place, balance becomes structural rather than effort-based. Authors who rely on motivation alone eventually struggle. Authors who rely on systems can continue even when motivation fluctuates. This stability is what prevents burnout long term. Balance is not achieved by doing everything carefully. It is achieved by designing your process so that care is built in. In the next section, we'll look at how redefining productivity and success helps authors release pressure and build careers that are both meaningful and sustainable. Let's do something out of the ordinary in this section. Let's redefine productivity and success as an author, shall we? One of the most powerful steps authors can take to avoid burnout is redefining what productivity and success actually mean for them. Many authors operate under borrowed definitions, often shaped by social media, industry myths, or comparison with others. These definitions usually emphasize as constant output, visible activity, and measurable growth at all times. While they may look motivating on the surface, they often create pressure that is impossible to sustain. Traditional productivity narratives reward speed, volume, and visibility. Authors are encouraged to write faster, publish more often, market constantly, and always be working toward the next milestone. When productivity is defined this way, rest feels like failure, and pauses feel dangerous. Over time, this mindset erodes both creativity and well-being. Redefining productivity begins with separating activity from progress. Being busy does not always mean moving forward. Many authors spend hours on tasks that feel productive but do not meaningfully support their goals. Sustainable authors learn to ask a different question. Not how much did I do today, but did what I did move my work in the right direction? Productivity for authors is not linear. Writing a single paragraph that unlocks a chapter can be more valuable than drafting thousands of unfocused words. Taking time to think, rest, or read can directly support better writing, even if it produces no immediate output. When authors redefine productivity to include thinking and recovery, pressure decreases. Success is often defined externally. Bestseller lists, income milestones, follower counts, and launch rankings dominate the conversation. While these metrics can be useful, they are incomplete. Authors who define success solely by external markers often feel perpetually behind, even when making meaningful progress. Sustainable authors build internal success metrics alongside external ones. These may include consistency, creative satisfaction, skill development, or alignment with personal values. When success includes how the work feels as well as how it performs, motivation becomes more stable. Another important shift is recognizing that productivity changes across seasons. Life events, emotional load, and health all affect capacity. Sustainable authors allow their definitions of productivity to flex rather than forcing constant output. This flexibility prevents shame during slower periods and reduces the urge to quit. Redefining productivity also involves releasing comparison. Seeing other authors publish more frequently or appear more visible can create a false sense of inadequacy. What is rarely visible is the support, resources, or trade-offs behind that output. Sustainable authors focus on their own pace and priorities rather than measuring themselves against incomplete information. Success also looks different at different stages of a career. Early success may mean finishing a first book. Later, success may mean building a backlist, stabilizing income, or protecting creative joy. Authors who allow success to evolve avoid stagnation and resentment. Another critical element is permission. Many authors feel they need permission to slow down, change direction, or redefine goals. Sustainable productivity comes from granting that permission internally. Waiting for external validation keeps authors trapped in unsustainable patterns. Redefining success also reduces fear. When success is not tied to constant performance, authors feel safer experimenting, resting, and learning. Fear-driven productivity often leads to burnout. Curiosity-driven productivity supports growth. It is also important to recognize that productivity and success are not moral measures. Writing more does not make someone more worthy. Publishing less does not make someone less serious. Sustainable authors detach self-worth from output. When authors redefine productivity as meaningful progress rather than constant motion, work becomes calmer and more focused. When they redefine success as alignment rather than approval, publishing becomes less anxious and more intentional. Burnout thrives when success is always just out of reach. Sustainability grows when success is defined in ways that are achievable, personal, and flexible. In the final section, we'll bring everything together and focus on building a long-term, burnout-resistant author mindset that supports both creativity and visibility over time. Let's prolong our writing career and talk about a long-term, burnout-resistant author mindset. Avoiding burnout is not about finding the perfect schedule, the ideal marketing strategy, or the most efficient workflow. Those tools matter, but they only work when supported by a mindset that allows sustainability. A long-term, burnout-resistant author mindset is what holds everything together when motivation dips, results fluctuate, or life intervenes. One of the most important elements of this mindset is accepting that publishing is a long game. Authors who burn out often expect short timelines and immediate validation. When progress feels slower than anticipated, frustration builds. Authors who last understand that meaningful careers are built over years, not months. This perspective reduces urgency and replaces it with patience. Another core shift is releasing the need for constant reassurance. Early in a career, authors often look for external signals that they are doing things right. Sales, reviews, engagement, and praise become emotional anchors. A burnout-resistant mindset learns to self-validate. Progress is recognized internally rather than constantly sought externally. Long-term authors also develop resilience around uncertainty. Publishing outcomes are unpredictable, algorithms change, reader behavior shifts, books perform unevenly. Authors who expect stability from external systems struggle emotionally. Authors who accept uncertainty as part of the landscape adapt more easily. This mindset also includes emotional boundaries. Authors learn not to internalize every outcome. A slow launch is not a personal failure. A quiet period is not a sign to quit. Detaching identity from performance allows authors to recover more quickly from setbacks. Another critical component is compassion toward oneself. Burnout often escalates when authors respond to fatigue with self-criticism. A sustainable mindset replaces judgment with curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why am I failing?" authors ask, "What is this trying to tell me?" This shift opens space for adjustment rather than collapse. Burnout-resistant authors also understand that rest is not optional. It is structural. They schedule downtime not as a reward, but as maintenance. Creativity requires recovery, and ignoring that reality leads to depletion. Authors who plan rest stay creative longer. Flexibility is another defining trait. Long-term authors allow their strategies, goals, and identities to evolve. They do not cling rigidly to one vision of success. When circumstances change, they adapt without seeing it as defeat. A sustainable mindset also values consistency over intensity. Short bursts of extreme effort may produce temporary results, but they often lead to exhaustion. Steady, manageable effort compounds over time. Authors who embrace this principle remain productive without burning out. Another key element is meaning. Authors who connect their work to personal values and purpose experience deeper motivation. When writing feels meaningful beyond metrics, it sustains energy even during challenging periods. Burnout-resistant authors also curate their input. They are selective about advice, comparisons, and noise. Too much external input can create confusion and pressure. Sustainable authors filter information carefully and trust their own judgment. Finally, a long-term mindset includes permission to pause without quitting. Many authors interpret slowing down as failure. Burnout-resistant authors see pauses as part of the process. They step back, recalibrate, and return with clarity. But balancing writing and marketing is not about perfect equilibrium. It is about building a mindset that allows adjustment, recovery, and growth over time. When authors stop demanding constant performance from themselves, sustainability becomes possible. A burnout-resistant mindset does not eliminate challenges. It changes how authors respond to them. And that response is what ultimately determines whether a career lasts. This mindset is not something you achieve once. It is something you practice. Over time, it becomes the foundation that supports both creativity and visibility without sacrificing well-being.
Welcome to Cosmo Publishing. You just tuned yourself to the coolest place to learn all about self-publishing. We are a turnkey quality service provider, from interior formatting to custom covers and everything in between, including book marketing and advertising. It is the company that books a lot.